What is good, gamers? I'm your host, Craig, as always. Welcome back to Updated. Today's date is January 20... January? Where am I in time? Today's date is February 28th, 2022. We have a ton of stuff today, so I'm just going to hop right into it, and I'm going to start off with Elden Ring. Elden Ring came out almost 4 days ago now, about 3.5 days-ish. And oh man, it's probably the best Souls game to date. And I definitely think all of the early reviews, being like 10 out of 10, 9 and above, basically, were all of the early reviews. And I think those were pretty accurate. We do have a few things to talk about. Well, I mean, mainly only 2 things. But my personal thoughts, the game is great. There is so much to do in the game, it's ridiculous. I literally can just randomly run around on my horse and find random caves and stuff. I mean, granted, I play the game a little differently. I kind of just speedrun everything. But, I mean, I'm enjoying the heck out of this game. I already have almost 30 hours in the game. It's ridiculous how much fun I've been having in it. The bosses are really good. Every single one of them gives me almost every single one of them gives me just the feeling that some of the best bosses from Dark Souls 3 gave me, which is really nice. I really enjoy the boss fights. I mean, everything just kind of works. However, there are some me specifically, and I know Michaela have been having both frame issues somewhat every now and then, really dependent on where we are and what we're doing. I have frame issues when I'm in like boss fights and stuff like that, and there's just kind of a lot going on. I think Michaela's issue is similar, although I think she has more random frame drops. And then on top of that, both mine and Michaela's controllers have a habit of disconnecting when these frame drops happen. I'm not sure if it's because of the frame drops or not, but it is an issue that they are aware of and they are working on. Apparently it's pretty isolated to PC in itself. The PC port is honestly a little bit on the rougher side. I know the controls for keyboard and mouse are once again god awful, just like every other Souls game. So, and they don't even tell you the controls for PC, for keyboard and mouse. When you play, it's literally just the Xbox controls on the screen. No other controls are on the screen. It's kind of frustrating because someone new to the series has to experience that kind of stuff. I kind of have come to expect it at this point. I've played all the Souls games on PC, and all of them are very similar in that regard. When it comes to PC ports, they're not great. However, the game itself, if you can look past those issues, which, I mean, I just use a controller, and I have been having a great time. I did want to talk a little bit about what you can expect from the game. I know there are lots of reviews out there that are all like, oh, hey, the game is great, and all of them do express the issue of the frame rate on PC specifically. I also did want to talk about the performance on other consoles, because that's very important. The newer consoles, such as, the Xbox Series X, PS5, those can all run the game at 4K above 50 FPS. When you're in quality mode, I believe the PS5 gets somewhere around 58 FPS, and then the Xbox Series X gets somewhere around 53 to 55. Keep in mind, this is in 4K, so that's pretty good. If you aren't running in 4K, you should be hitting 60 frames no problem, if I'm not mistaken. And then if you run the games in quality mode, in performance mode, I also believe you will get some boost, if I'm not mistaken. Now, one thing I thought was pretty important, because not a lot of people have been able to get their hands on the newer consoles, or even PCs in general lately. So I went ahead and did the research about the older consoles, because the game is out on the older consoles. And I mean, of course, you have the purchase upgrade when it comes to these consoles. So like, if you were to buy it on Xbox One and then get an Xbox Series X later, you would still be able to play the game on Xbox Series X, if I'm not mistaken. Most games are like that. I am under the assumption that Elden Ring is like that as well, especially considering if you buy it online, I think 100% of games that are on both consoles, you just get on it, the Xbox Series X version when you have a Series X. So you don't have to worry about that in that regard. I cannot speak for PlayStation, although I believe it is the same. Not all games on PlayStation are like that, but I believe that the upgrade is free and whatever. You probably have to pay like 10 or 20 bucks or something. That's just how PlayStation is doing it for some reason. But yeah, on the older consoles, you can expect, of course, not 4K, nowhere near 4K. Matter of fact, most of the time, no matter what display you're on, the game is actually downscaled or rendered at a lower resolution to start with, and then upscaled to whatever resolution you have. So on like a 1080p TV, you'd basically be playing in 900p on pretty much both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One / Xbox One X. They differ slightly. One of them uses a weird render tech to kind of upscale it a little bit better. However, you can expect about 30 frames from Elden Ring on these consoles, which is pretty standard for Souls games. I mean, I think Dark Souls 3 was a tiny bit smoother than 30 frames, if I'm not mistaken. However, you can't expect much more than that on these consoles. And the quality is not great. I know the shadows look a little bit weird, and the frames when an enemy's like in an animation can be like really low, despite it'll be like in 10 FPS, despite the world around you being in 30 FPS, so it'll look a little weird. Definitely not great quality wise, but from everything I can see, you can still play the game and enjoy it perfectly fine. I mean, 30 frames isn't great, but on those older consoles, it's kind of something that they've been dealing with for years now, so you can't really expect anything more, and I'm honestly really surprised they got it to work this well. Keep in mind, Elden Ring is not crossplay besides between the console families, so PlayStation 4 can play with PlayStation 5, and Xbox One can play with Xbox Series X. Those are the only crossplay type things. I really hope crossplay comes in the future, because it is very easy to implement, and I genuinely do not think that there's a disadvantage to playing on one console over the other, or PC over another console, especially considering the newer consoles basically have 60 frames, which, I mean, nowadays is kind of a quote-unquote standard for quality of games and consoles and such. So, I mean, if they've hit that mark, especially at the highest resolution possible, then what's stopping them? Why do we not have crossplay? It would bolster the amount of people online at one time. I'm kind of hoping they're waiting until later to do something to implement it once the player base kind of goes down, just so there's not tons and tons of people on the same network of, servers and whatnot, and all the summon signs get weird or whatever. But I really hope they implement it eventually. It's something minor, and it's not really something that's important. However, I think it's just good for games in general. If it's not going to affect the way the game works or give other players an advantage, which, I mean, in Dark Souls, there's not really an advantage to have until you get to the point where you're getting invaded or you're invading other people even. But crossplay, I feel like it should be standard pretty much. I mean, for Christ's sake, Call of Duty is crossplay. Call of Duty, which can be very competitive, and you still have, the older consoles on crossplay. Once again, something minor, but something I think is kind of important. There you go. There you have it. Those are my thoughts on Elden Ring. I believe I'm pretty close to kind of being able to beat the game. I have a lot of the map discovered. I've only beaten a few of the major bosses, but I've beaten like 30 to 40 other bosses around the map because I've been exploring so much and whatnot. So I mean, like I said, I have almost 30 hours in the game. It's going great so far. I could see myself playing it over and over again, basically, and just exploring it in different ways and having fun with it. There's horse combat in the game. You can ride on your horse. You can fight things. I really like doing horse combat when it comes to dragons, and that's basically it. Horse combat otherwise is not great. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the game overall is just great. I feel like every playstyle is viable in these games, other than like, well, not other than like, unlike the other Souls games where something like a faith build isn't great and is really exclusively used for healing. Now we actually have, other damage type spells in faith builds. Like Michaela has a faith build going actually, and she has a bunch of fire spells that she uses. She literally spawns a dragon head onto her head and breathes fire. It's sick. So I feel like a lot of things are viable. They really outdid themselves when it comes to balance in this game. I cannot speak for PvP. PvP balance is probably a little out of whack right now, and it probably always will be. That's kind of just how Dark Souls PvP has always worked. There's always one or two things that are really good, and then you always have those people that are absolutely monsters and parry anything and everything with like meme weapons and whatnot. So it's something that you'll kind of always run into, but I feel like at the very least in the base core game, everything is viable. You can kind of just play how you want. If you see a weapon that looks cool and you have the stats for it, just go for it, and you'll probably do just fine as long as you're good with your dodges and whatnot and your stam management when it comes to blocking and dodging. But really fun game overall. I will say, if you don't like the Souls games, I would not recommend. Well, you can always try it. However, you're probably not gonna like this game. It's possible because of the open world aspect of it, and kind of the aspect where you can just go do something else if you're stuck, unlike the other games. And something like Dark Souls 3, if you were stuck, you kind of were stuck. And something like this, if you're stuck on a boss, you can just move on and go try to kill a different boss and level up a bit from the souls that you get from the runes that you get from fighting that boss. I mean, I've had to do that plenty of times. A matter of fact, right before this, like 2 hours earlier, I ran into a boss room in a cave with 2 bosses. So I tried like twice. They annoyed the hell out of me both times. So I just grabbed my souls and dipped. And just now I'm going to go do something else probably right after I finish recording this podcast, honestly. But yeah, I mean, it's a great game overall. I mean, it's worth $60 to me. You can also, if you have something like Humble Bundle, or maybe even G2A is selling it on sale a little bit, but I know some places you can get it on sale for like $48 instead of $60. And we haven't heard anything about DLC yet. The deluxe edition literally comes with like the soundtrack, and that's it, basically. So I mean, yeah, $48. That's the lowest that I've seen it go for. I have a 20% discount through Humble Bundle because I've been with them for so long. So that's how I can get it for $48. And if you check a G2A or other key reseller websites, I would definitely recommend checking all of them before you purchase one and make sure you're going on a reputable site. G2A works just fine. And there are a few others like SCD Keys, but they normally don't sell a lot of games. You can always try. Those kinds of sites are pretty reputable, but lowest I've seen is $48. I mean, unless you just want to straight up buy it from the storefront, that's a full $60, of course. And yeah, great game overall. I definitely recommend it. Maybe even just watching it is kind of fun, honestly. I can't wait to see the speed runs, the no-hit runs. Those are going to be really tough because of the nature of some of these enemies. And yeah, that's all I got on Elden Ring. Michaela also enjoys it. Matter of fact, earlier, she told me that she was experiencing Elden Ring withdrawal from being at work and not being able to play Elden Ring. So yeah, moving on from Elden Ring, we have the Games with Gold games. For March, I am honestly only going to say the Xbox One games because, shoot, one of the Xbox 360 games, the one for the latter half of March, is a SpongeBob game, Truth or Square. Yeah. So, if you really want an Xbox 360 SpongeBob game, wait till March 16th if you have games with gold. Easy collapse, I guess. And then for the Xbox One games, for the full month, we have The Flame and the Flood, which I believe is kind of like a survival story game where you're on a raft and you kind of go through islands, gather materials, craft, survive, and go through a story. At least I think it's story-based. I played like 5 minutes of it one time, like a few years ago, and just never got back to it. And then from the 16th to April 15th, we have Street Powered Soccer, which it kind of seems like it's just your normal street sport game with superpowers and weird maps probably, and face off against street legends or your friends in a game to determine who will claim the crown of Street King. Whoa, very cool. Street soccer. Street Power Soccer is what it's called. So, if you're into sports game, might as well give it a shot. Next up, we have a lot of PlayStation news. We have the PlayStation Plus games for March, which includes it includes Team Sonic Racing, Ark Survival Evolved, Ghost Runner, and Ghost of Tsushima Legends, which is a so-called quote-unquote bonus game. The only game that isn't also for PS4 is Ghost Runner. Ghost Runner is only for the PS5, but all three other games... Actually, wait. Whoa. Okay. So Team Sonic Racing, Ark Survival Evolved are both only for the PS4. Ghost Runner is for the PS5, and then Ghost of Tsushima Legends is for both the PS4 and PS5. Honestly, this looks like a pretty solid lineup. Ghost of Tsushima, I know people were really hyped about and liked. And Ghost Runner, I also heard good things about. Ark is something that I've personally sunk like hundreds of hours in. I can't speak for Team Sonic Racing, but it's probably just a similar version of Mario Kart or whatever. Just one of those types of games. That's it for the month of March when it comes to PS Plus games. Next, we have Sony revealing the PlayStation VR 2 headset and the controllers, which all look very modern, to say the least. You can look it up. It's not that hard to find. It'll be the first thing that comes up. But it almost looks... It's like you have to put your hand into rings to hold the controller, which seems cool and all, and it kind of seems like it would help you from dropping it. But at the same time, it makes me wonder how easy it's going to be to develop accessories for this. Like, I have a knuckle grip that I added to my Quest 2 controllers, and that really makes me wonder how easy it's going to be able to create something like that. Or like a guard for the rings where, the LEDs are to help it track. It's going to be easy to create a guard for that so it doesn't like crack or anything when you accidentally hit a wall inevitably because it's VR. Other than that, though, the headset itself looks solid. We know that it includes inside-out tracking. Apparently, it includes, extra comfort. It has silicone for the... Whoa, my brain... What is with my brain lately? It has, for the face covering, it's silicone, which, it's a little bit on the warmer side, but it's supposed to help with comfort more. Now, we have absolutely no pricing information yet, other than, of course, the leaks. Everyone thinks it's gonna be like $500 or something like that. So, yeah, that's pretty much all we know. I believe it has, of course, there's like an IPD. You can change the IPD and whatnot, and I think it also has... Oh, it has ventilation to improve airflow. I think it has eye tracking. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I heard something about eye tracking, and it is also a single cord setup, so you only have to plug a single cord in to probably your PS5 or whatever. I also kind of hope that it is PC compatible. That would be really big for basically everything. That would increase sales exponentially because, one, it has eye tracking. 2, it's supposed to be pretty comfortable with a decent FOV. And 3, I mean, it looks like the controllers are actually pretty solid. So while there's no extra like controller things like finger grips, kind of like the Steam controller has, to where you can track your fingers in real time, it doesn't have anything fancy like that. However, if it has eye tracking and it is really comfortable with the ventilation system that it has, it could be a really good seller for the PC market, and probably could take a chunk out of, something like the Oculus Quest's share of the market. Because, shoot, the Quest 2 is dominating the VR space right now when it comes to basically anything. I think, if I'm not mistaken, almost half of Steam VR players are using a Quest 2, which is insane numbers. So next up, after that, I'm really excited for that, by the way. New VR stuff is always exciting. It's always good. So let's hope it's really good and sets itself apart from the rest of the market. And we also have that, I think sometime last year, they were talking about having your captures on the PlayStation 5 automatically uploading to where you can edit them and send them like on your phone. On the PlayStation app, it just pretty much auto uploads them on your console, and then you can see them right on the app. Just a little thing, not really a big deal. However, it's rolling out to a lot more countries this month, and then even more next month. I mean, it's just a little feature. It's something that Xbox has had for, I remember doing this in like 2018, but always good to have something easy, and I'm sure you can opt out of it or something, probably, hopefully. I mean, should always be an option. And then next, we have Shadow Warrior 3 going to PlayStation Now on launch day. If you don't know what Shadow Warrior is, it's a series of games where you play as like a samurai in it's kind of an open world, I would say, where you do missions in it. I don't know what the actual end goal is for all of this game or this game. I don't know if it's different between the three, but it's kind of sandboxy and it's kind of just goofy. The main character is a goofy character who always makes jokes about stuff, and pretty much everything is always jokey, and you can cut limbs off of people with your samurai sword, and you get guns to shoot people with and whatnot. It's like a fun little sandboxy game where you just hack and slash, shoot at people. It's supposed to just kind of take your anger out on everything. That's what I did, at least, when I played Shadow Warrior 2. So, I mean, that's coming out March 1st. So, March 1st, PlayStation Now, Shadow Warrior 3. Not too bad. That's it for the PlayStation news. So, I mean, we had a lot of news for PlayStation, and we have a lot of news for Steam, too. So, we'll get to that in a moment. But for now, we have Twitch adding, this is kind of irrelevant considering Luna is not popular at all. I've tried it before because Ubisoft Plus allows you to use Luna for the Ubisoft games that are on Ubisoft Plus. So Twitch added a play on Luna button it's not when you were watching a streamer, which I think would have been really good. Having that kind of button would definitely help push the service more. But when you're on the game's page on Twitch, so like if I were to open up, just say Elden Ring, and it was on Luna, and I had Luna or whatever, and had Elden Ring on there, when I go to the Elden Ring page on Twitch to just look at everyone streaming Elden Ring, then a play on Luna button should be there, theoretically, right next to the follow button. I mean, like I said, Luna is not popular at all. It is a pretty decent service as long as you have decent internet, and it helps save your storage space and whatnot. And I mean, it's a nice little just feature just to have it, but not really too important, and I doubt many people are really going to make use of it. I think it's just kind of a way to get more people to try Luna, which it'll work. Probably not very well, but it'll work on some people. And who knows, maybe it'll just absolutely explode. For some reason, cloud gaming will not take off like that for probably another few years, but I digress. Next up, we have Apex Legends Mobile having a limited release in March. If you don't know what Apex Legends is, it is a battle royale, probably one of the most popular ones right now, next to Warzone, of course, and Fortnite. But it's a battle royale set in the Titanfall universe. I'm sure you know what the Titanfall universe is. Great games, phenomenal games with phenomenal stories, but it's a battle royale set in that universe with a bunch of people with different powers and abilities. And the mobile version of the game is coming out in a limited release in 10 countries. We have Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Mexico, Peru, Argentina, and Colombia. And it's for both Android and iOS. And apparently it's going to be pretty limited on what you can play. You can only play a certain amount of characters and whatnot. Beta tests were held last year, so since they're doing a limited test now, it hints to them being pretty close to done with the game. I would say we can probably wait for another few months for the game to come out completely. Probably sometime around May or June is my guesstimate. They haven't put out a guesstimate from what I was able to find, but they'll probably do a limited playtest in larger countries like the US and Canada and the Europe and whatnot in probably a month or so, if I'm guessing correctly. And then I'm assuming sometime around May or June we'll see the full release of the game. Probably not going to be, well, I take that back. It's going to be super popular. Let's be real here. Everyone's going to be lagging around everywhere on their phones. Oh man, mobile battle royales, the funniest thing on the internet. Next up, we have Call of Duty possibly taking a year off in 2023. This was kind of being hinted at a while ago from certain leakers. It's probably about 2-3 weeks ago, and I would have talked about it then. However, I was kind of like, I'll just waiting until more people caught it and more people kind of confirmed it-ish. Just about everyone except for Activision / Treyarch themselves have confirmed that they're very likely taking a break from Call of Duty this year. Or from, yeah. Well, from next year, sorry. Not this year. So this year we will probably get a game, and then 2023 wait, what? Why aren't they delaying the 2022 game? It's this article that I found says that it's because Vanguard failed to meet sales targets. Did they already? Yeah, no. So it's a new. They're Wait, what? Okay, so yeah, something's probably going to come out in this year, and of course we'll have our updates for Vanguard and whatever. Which I haven't even touched Vanguard at all. I have no interest in it. It's no point. I barely play FPS games anymore, for Christ's sake. They're fun and all, but I don't know. A lot of games have been boring to me lately. So yeah, so next year we probably won't see a Call of Duty game, which is good. I think taking a break from a yearly release like this is definitely the way to go. I mean, look at what Ubisoft did. Ubisoft took a few years of a break, if I'm not mistaken, on Assassin's Creed, and they came back and pretty much everyone loved the new set of games that came out. I think it was actually from Odyssey to Whoa, my mind just went blank. Odyssey to the one after Odyssey. I can't think of the one that came after Odyssey. It's the second to last one. The one that came out before the latest one, and the one that came out after Odyssey. That they took I think they took a pretty big break between those two. And I mean, everyone liked the game. So pretty much everyone liked the game, at least. Everyone that didn't hate the fact that it was turning more RPG based liked the game. Jeez, this is turning out to be a really long episode, by the way. I haven't even touched Steam Deck, which is what we're touching next. So the Steam Deck is officially here. It released today, technically, which means they started shipping today, and they're going to be shipping units just about every week starting... I think they're starting early March when it comes to shipping, and they are shipping them out every week. So everyone who pre-saved their pre-orders for like it was like $5 to save your spot in line to get a pre-order or to get an order on launch. Starting early March or whatever, you're going to get an email depending on when you saved your spot. And if they send you an email saying that you can order, then you have a certain amount of time to actually order. I think it's like 12 hours or something like that. And then once you order, they already have the console ready to ship to you. They will not email you unless they have a console there ready in stock for you. And they're saving them until your time runs out. And then it moves on to the next person. Then you effectively lost your spot. I think that is a great way to go about it. Honestly, not shipping things in a perfect line without shipping, without promising shipping, without actually having it in hand is definitely a good thing. And while a lot of people have been saying it is definitely an early access console, it is a great console. Of course, you have what the Steam Deck is. It is a kind of, it's almost like a Switch device. It's almost like the Nintendo Switch. However, it's almost a PC. It is Linux based, which is not Windows, of course. So it's the reason it's Linux based is because the operating system is lighter, and they made Linux into their own OS kind of called Steam OS. And it is a lot lighter than Windows, which of course saves battery life, helps them improve the quality of the experience and whatnot. And they are making games compatible via a neat little trick they have. I forgot what it's called. Or they have the developers themselves create a compatibility layer for the Steam Deck. I cannot speak to how many games are compatible. I know a lot of games are compatible. However, not every game is compatible. And of course, they're going to always be working on other games, more games being compatible. Linus Tech Tips did a review. He released it just yesterday on the 27th of February, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And so I would definitely recommend checking that out if the console is something that you're interested in. He kind of goes over the good and the bad. Apparently, the one review that I've looked up online, other than the Linus Tech Tips, says that the fan is noisy. And then some people also complain about battery life. But you're getting a solid amount of battery life. It's generally anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Now, of course, if you want more battery life, you can lower the quality of the games that you're playing. You don't necessarily have to lower it a lot. And so, yeah, I mean, Linus is going to be doing a lot of things on the Steam Deck. You can suspend and resume games, and you can even have a performance overlay. It's built in via, I forgot what software they partnered with to kind of have it built into the Steam Deck, but you can literally just turn it on and it shows you like your FPS, what your CPU is doing, basically, how much of it's being used, what temperature everything is at, and which is really good. I would like to see that in more things. Of course, you have things on PC that you can do it, but you can't do that on console. You have to do something completely different to get those numbers on console, which is stupid. Things like this should just be built in. It's good for reviews. It's consumer friendly in multiple ways. They're definitely being really transparent with the Steam Deck, and that is something that I think is really good. Not only that, but they also partnered with iFixit. iFixit is a company that basically sells tools and sometimes parts, even especially in this case, for technology, like fixing phones and whatever. They partnered with Steam and to provide replacement parts and tools to help you fix your Steam Deck. So instead of doing something like, oh, hey, we have to send it off to an Apple facility, take 3 weeks to fix your problem, and then just send you a new phone because we quote unquote can't fix your problem. That's not the case here. Of course, I'm sure you can go to someone at some point within the next year, probably give it a few months, for people to learn the Steam Deck and whatnot and have it get fixed. But if you just want to fix it yourself, just go on the iFixit website, find the part that you need, buy the part, and you're good. Fix it. And this also opens up the case where they can release new hardware for the inside of the Steam Deck. So they can release, I saw an idea online where they can just release a whole new motherboard basically with a better CPU and with a better APU and better speeds. And then so you can just take the current motherboard out, slap the new one in, probably resolder some stuff, because you're probably going to need to. I doubt they'll include, ports and whatnot on that. Well, maybe they will. Maybe they'll just replace the whole motherboard. But, and then, you can just get it back up and running and it'll be better. That sounds phenomenal if that's possible. I can't speak to the possibility of that because I don't do hardware most of the time besides normal PC hardware, but it sounds doable, and that would be phenomenal if it was, and if they made it happen. Of course, it wouldn't happen for a few years, but it would be great. It's definitely good to see a creator of a console being very transparent with what's under there. They let multiple people do a teardown before it even released. They let multiple people speak about the quality of the product before it was even released and before pretty much anyone has their hands on one. Very good on them. Really like to see this kind of stuff. It's very, open and communicative of a big company, which you don't really see nowadays, and it's great. However, the Steam Deck definitely isn't without its issues, of course, which is mainly software based. They don't really have the store page down to a T yet. There's no way to tell which games are compatible yet via natively in the menus. They have this rule of thumb thing at the end of a library online where they tell you, hey, this game works perfectly with the Steam Deck and this game is iffy, or this game you might have to turn down some settings. However, it's not natively on the Steam Deck, and that needs to happen. And of course, they're probably gonna make it happen pretty soon, as soon as they get all that stuff in order, of course. But yeah, it's just, I will probably not get a Steam Deck. I believe Michaela is getting a Steam Deck, so I guess she can speak to the quality of it when she gets it. But I have only heard good things, and I would definitely recommend, if you're thinking of getting one, go watch the Linus Tech Tips video on it. Linus Tech Tips on YouTube, they do a lot of tech review stuff, and like I said, they reviewed this. They released the video yesterday because that's when their embargo lifted. Good video. Decently looking console. I could definitely see myself using this pretty regularly if I had one. But, it's $400. I don't really have $400 to throw around at the moment. And plus, I have too much stuff in terms of video games going on. I have a Switch, a VR headset, my PC, an Xbox. So I'm chilling for now. And so, yeah. That's generally what I got for the Steam Deck. And, I guess I could say that the dock for the Steam Deck, which was, I believe, originally supposed to come out on launch, the dock is just like a Nintendo Switch dock. You plug it in, it charges it. However, with this one, you can also plug peripherals into it. So like a controller or a keyboard and mouse even. And then you can also plug an Ethernet cable if you wanted that into it. And so you can basically do all that, control it basically like a normal Linux-based PC, and then it's not going to be available at launch though. There will probably be third-party things, maybe, hopefully. I mean, who knows? I guess considering we haven't gotten the official one yet, we can't really create third-party ones. Although I'm sure it may exist at some point before this one exists. However, the dock itself won't be out for a few months after the Steam Deck itself releases. I don't believe we have an exact date. However, it'll probably be within the first 2 or 3 months. That's all I got for that. And then for the last piece of Valve news, we have the fact that Gabe Newell, their CEO, the CEO of Valve, says that they are more than happy to help Microsoft integrate Xbox Game Pass with Steam. That is, I want to say, a good sign. It's not saying it's gonna happen. It's Steam saying, hey, we're willing to do this. Microsoft, tell us what you want to do. Let us know. It's reaching out a hand. And I think it would be pretty good. While I don't really see it happening because they probably want more people in the Xbox app itself instead of on something like Steam, it's definitely possible. And I would personally like to see it happen. I mean, I have like 4 different launchers that I use, which is kind of ridiculous. So I would like to see, something like Xbox Game Pass be integrated with Steam. However, it's iffy. Then you have to Then you have to work the whole save issue out. Is it saved on Steam? Is it saved on the Xbox servers? Blah blah blah. And I kind of hope it happens because it would be cool. But who knows? I guess we'll have to find out, won't we? Next up, we have the Pokemon Presents live stream that happened just yesterday on the 27th. And from that, we got the new Pokemon game announced, which is really early, and I'm unsure if this is a good thing or not. But we have the next Pokemon games, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Violet, not violent. It's not Pokemon aren't out here punching people in the face or anything like that. It's Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. They got announced for late this year. That is really early after Legends Arceus, Legends Arceus, however you want to pronounce it. And it's also kind of, I don't want to say risky, but it's a new generation. Of course, it's just a classic Pokemon game. It's the first game named after colors since Black and White 2. Which is interesting that they're going back on this. I think they patented this name back in like 2007 or something like that, though. So it makes sense that they finally want to use it at some point. But of course, it's a new generation, so there's new Pokemon in a new area. And it says that the game is open world, quote unquote, where various towns with no borders blend seamlessly into the wilderness. I really wonder if they're going to get rid of like a lot of the loading screens, because sometimes you have time like cities where you enter gates and stuff and you have to load, which is, I mean, certain things like buildings I understand. Cities though, come on now, it's 2022, we can work around that by now. I wonder if they're going to get rid of those and kind of try to make the game more open, less loading, and kind of just change the game for the better. Really hope. I also wonder if the new battle mechanics are going to be coming into play here, considering they're saying it's an open world game. So I wonder if some of the new mechanics from Legends is going to kind of blend over into this game. Would be cool. Some of it would be a little weird. The starters are a grass cat named Sprigatito, That's a very funny name. Fire crocodile named Fuecoco, and then a water duckling named Quaxley. So, classic 3 starters, funny names for some reason. I mean, hopefully it's a good Pokemon game. Yeah. Next up, we have a Daybreak update for Pokemon Legends, and it has trainers investigating mysterious mass outbreaks of Pokemon that are popping up all over the Hisui region. They will also be able to battle various opponents like legendary Pokemon and Wardens, adding yet more options to the Pokemon battle experience. Really good to see DLC coming out this early. The game's been out for like a month and we're already getting DLC. You can also get 30 Ultra Balls, Gigaton Balls, and Jet Balls by entering the password Arceus Adventure, all caps, no spaces, in the Mystery Gifts menu before March 31st. That is the password Arceus Adventure in the Mystery Gifts menu before March 31st, 2022. No spaces, all caps. And then, of course, there's also an online animated series set in the Legends region that will launch later 2022 with an original story. And then we have a new legendary being added to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It is Shaman. If you use an item called Oak's Letter received as a mystery gift, so it's Oak's Letter, and it's received as a mystery gift, you'll be able to catch the mythical Pokemon Shaman by talking to Professor Oak on Route 224. It doesn't say a release date for that, so I'm assuming that released yesterday as well. So update your games, people. Get those legendaries. We all love legendaries in Pokemon. They're great. Next, we have Pokemon Go, adding Pokemon from the Alolan region on March 1st. So that is Pokemon... Which games is that? Is that X and Y? It's either X and Y or Sword and Shield. One of the two. And I think that's just about it. I need to say something in Discord. We have the Pokemon Max... Oh, wait. Free gifts in Pokemon Masters X. Sorry. And then there are bonuses in Pokemon Cafe Remix. And then there's also Pokemon Unite players being able to try out mythical Pokemon Hoopa and earn its license. Yeah, so I mean, just a few small things and a bunch of different Pokemon games for celebrating Pokemon Day, of course, which was, I believe, yesterday. And pretty good things overall. I like to see game updates, especially for their newer games, especially this soon. Really soon for these updates. Granted, something like adding a single legendary and adding a small quest for it isn't that difficult. It's just something I like to see. That's all the Pokemon related news. We have a former Cyberpunk and Witcher 3 devs forming their own game studio, and they are currently working on an unnamed project in a completely new universe that they plan on creating into a full-on saga, basically. I think that is about it for that story, because and apparently the Rebel Wolves' identity is its commitment to put the needs of its employees first, as the studio wants to create games on its own terms, but not at the cost of burning out its staff. We've heard this plenty of times before. We'll see if it actually happens. Who knows? Finally, it has been like so long. I think this is the longest podcast ever. 50 minutes. We have Epic Games making hundreds of temp testers into full employees with benefits. Something good for a change in the world right now. Just a bunch of people getting their jobs upgraded. That's great. And yeah. That's something to like to hear, especially testers. That shows that they're willing to put their money into actually making sure their games are good and their updates are good. That is a very good sign for the future of Epic and their games. It sounds weird when you just say Epic Games, but talking about the studio, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's all we have for the week. Overall, good news in the gaming industry all around, just about. For there's not really any games coming out this week. We have Grid Legends. Grid is a racing EA game, not really notable. We have Guild Wars 2, once again, not really notable. Other than that, I mean, that's it for this episode of Updated. If you've been listening for this long, thank you so much. If you're listening on Spotify, I do have a Q&A question up. It's just asking, how I can improve the podcast, any suggestions that you may have, or if you want to hear about a specific game's updates, or maybe like a specific developer that you want to hear updates from as they come out, shoot me an answer on that Q&A question. I will be sure to read them and try to incorporate them to the best of my ability. And I really hope you guys enjoyed listening to this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Updated Podcast on Twitter. And I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.